Hey guys, and welcome to the Growth by Jordan podcast. I'm super excited to get this podcast series started. Very excited for season 1, episode 1. Today, I'm going to be walking through my journey from being a corporate sales rep, working as a sales development representative at a number of different SaaS companies, to making the quite scary transition into high ticket sales, being a space that a lot of you guys who are listening are probably very familiar with, whether you're in high ticket sales already or you're in the corporate space. You've probably been flooded by a lot of content online around high ticket sales. And my intention is to basically give you all of the tools, the understandings, the resources that you need to make that move. I wanted to start by giving you an overview on my journey and a little bit about me for those of you who don't know who I am. My name is Jordan, and in 2024, I started 2 companies. The first being Golden Growth, which was a sales agency, and the second with my business partner Callum, where we built Sales Growth Club, which is what we're currently running, where we help to train high ticket sales reps and to build sales infrastructures into high ticket offers. A lot about my journey is going from corporate sales into high ticket sales, and then realize that I can leverage my abilities in the corporate space, in the high ticket space, to then build my own business. This whole podcast is about sharing that journey with you guys. So if you're looking to get into sales, this podcast is for you. If you're in sales already and you're looking to develop your skill set, this podcast is also for you. But also, if you're in sales and you're looking to start a business, I'm going to be sharing a lot of insight on how you're able to do that. But also, if you're a business owner and maybe you've come from a sales background, but you're sick and tired of doing sales in your business and you want to outsource that, or you want to build a team internally to take control over your sales so you can scale your business to the moon, this podcast is for you as well. So we're going to cover absolutely everything, and I hope that this podcast becomes the number 1 podcast for sales and business development. I want to give you all of the tools and resources you need to be as successful as possible. Like I said, specifically in this episode, we're going to be walking through the journey from corporate sales to high ticket sales, because I know that it's something that's quite common now. And it's something that I went through, but I did it in a slightly more unconventional way. It was by accident. I knew nothing about high ticket sales, but we'll get into that in just a moment. But for a lot of you guys who are working as sales executives, real estate agents, sales development reps, business development reps, account executives, you're probably looking at your feed on Instagram right now and you're seeing a lot of talk about the high ticket sales space. The reality is, high ticket sales has been around for quite some time, but it's starting to gain real momentum. This is because there's a rise of online businesses who essentially need sales teams. There's a massive demand for very good sales talent right now. The market is somewhat flooded with people who have got into high ticket sales but aren't that good at it. The move for corporate professionals who have been studying sales for the past couple of years to jump into the high ticket sales space, you have the skill set and the capabilities to really make an impact in that space. So it's something that a lot of people in the corporate space are 100% thinking about. If you're not thinking about it and you're happy where you are, that's perfectly fine. But if you are considering making that move, then I'm hoping I'm able to share all of the insight with you to make a conscious decision. But I wanted to ask you this question first and foremost. Have you ever felt stuck in a role where financially you're very comfortable, but your soul is telling you that you want more? Right? But you're afraid to take risks because of what your family might say, what your friends might say, what your bosses might say, or you're worried about money, or simply you just don't want to deviate from the norm. Because institutions have always taught us to learn, go through school, go to college, go to university, learn a degree, and then leverage that into getting a job. And honestly, that's the exact journey that I went on. I went through my whole school period being focused on getting good grades. I went to university, I studied English. I had no clue what I wanted to do. And then I landed in a sales role in a corporate job. But institutions are built to keep us in the system. Myself, I'm quite an entrepreneurial person. I've always had an entrepreneurial mindset. And the system is something that really held me back. And a lot of you guys are probably thinking the exact same way that I do. So this was me. And, if you are anything like me, you're entrepreneurial, you want to break free from a life that's dictated by the rules that are set up on us by others, whether again it's your family, your friends, your bosses, whatever that may be. You want freedom, you want money, you want abundance, you hate authority, you want purpose. But you feel like right now you're just not in the right vehicle to really receive that. And that's what the corporate environment did to me. So I'm not surprised if it's doing the exact same thing to you. I felt very limited in my potential and my capabilities. And then I took the risk and transitioned into the high ticket sales, where I was able to gain a lot more freedom, both financially, over my time, having control over the way that I wanted to live my life, not having to wake up at a specific time, commuting to the same place over and over again, eating the same lunches every Thursday, going out for drinks and damaging my body. I was able to really take control of my life and do something different that gave me the freedom, the health, being on the vibration that I wanted to be. So I hope that you all walk away with a fresh perspective after this episode, and you're able to have all the tools you need to make the risks and understand the risks and understand the rewards, so you can make a conscious decision on whether or not this is the move you actually want to make. So I want to start by giving you an overview into who I am. Like I said, I'm quite an entrepreneurial person. I've always desired starting a business. When I was in school, I wanted to start an established media company. I didn't even know what an established media company was at the time. I do now, but back then I studied English and media, and I knew that I wanted to start a company. So it just made sense for me to think in that way. But thinking back, I just knew I was always entrepreneurial. And even when I was a young kid, and my parents will know this, they always knew that I wanted to be an inventor. And I used to take paper and sellotape from around the house and fashion different objects and say that I created something new. Thinking back to even as a little boy, creating things out of paper and sellotape, wanting to develop something that didn't actually exist already, it's shaped who I am now. I've always been entrepreneurial. I've always desired going out and working on my own. It links back to this theme and this idea around the things that you desire being things that are already written in the universe. And David Guillaume talks about this a lot. For everyone listening to this podcast, if you don't listen to David Guillaume already, I'd highly recommend watching into some of his podcasts. They'll give you a fresh perspective on the way you look at life. But essentially, David Guillaume teaches the spiritual wisdoms of Kabbalah. Now, the spiritual wisdom of Kabbalah basically talks about this idea that the creator is God, essentially, or the creator is this universal, omniscient being that knows everything that's happened before and is going to happen in the future. And the creator is within everyone, and the things that we desire are already written. All we need to do is seek the opportunities to receive it. That's what Kabbalah means. Kabbalah is all about receiving. So if you desire something, and in my case, I desired the entrepreneurial lifestyle, I desired abundance, financial abundance, spiritual abundance, location abundance, and freedom. The idea of Kabbalah is, if you desire that, you need to embrace the opportunities that are put in front of you to receive it. So if you're listening to this, perhaps you desire the entrepreneur lifestyle, freedom, abundance, everything that I've just mentioned. Perhaps this is your sign to look into the opportunities that are going to get you there, right? Especially if you're in a corporate 9 to 5 and you know you don't want to be there, you're entrepreneurial, you know that you want more. Perhaps this is your sign to go off and receive that. So bear in mind that this idea around desire is going to dictate the rest of your life. And the last thing you want to do is let things get in the way of what you desire. Because the moment things get in the way of what you desire, that's how you become unhappy. And it's unfortunate, but I live in the UK, and it seems like unhappiness is a theme that's spread throughout London in particular. Perhaps it's the weather, but a lot of the time people are unhappy. And I believe that's because we have desires that we want to achieve, and we're limited by the world around us. There's our jobs, there's the school system, there's social media, there's the governments telling us that we can't achieve that. And that's what creates unhappiness. Whereas if we desire something and we know we're on the path to receiving it, then we're going to be happy. Right? We're going to feel abundant. We're going to feel like we're on the path to our future. The last thing you want to do is allow things to get in the way of what you desire. And in my instance, the corporate world did exactly that. Working in the SaaS space had many positives, many pros, many cons, but the one thing that constantly played on the back of my head and is what ultimately drove me into the position I'm in now is that it didn't fulfill my desire. So I want to walk through that journey. Like I said, working in the corporate world had many pros. You're surrounded by very intelligent people, so you learn a lot. So those are the first two. Firstly, the people and the fact that you learn a lot. I was always inspired by those who are around me. My first company, I worked at a learning and development SaaS company. The co-founders and specifically the CEO, they inspired me a lot. Right, they were brothers. They founded the company, and the CEO came from a sales background, but he was very charismatic. And the way that he spoke, and he always told me that sales is the path to entrepreneurial success. And to this day, I really do believe that. It inspired me. So I might not have thought the way that I did had I not met him. So being in those corporate spaces does surround you with very intelligent people, which allows you to learn a lot. And the third and final thing that I thought was a pro from working in the corporate space, but now looking back at it, I actually realize it's more of a con, and that is comfortability. I did feel comfortable because when you leave university, you find a job. Naturally, that's your thought process. You study, you find a job, you want to earn a lot of money. And I was a young man, fresh out of university, and I landed a sales role pretty quickly because one of my close friends also got into the sales space, and he approached me and was like, "Look, Jordan, we're very similar. We want to make a lot of money. The salary is like 30, 40K starting." And I just thought, wow, that's incredible. Why would I not get started in this? So I started reaching out to people on LinkedIn. And 3 weeks after leaving university, I landed my first sales role. So I've always been in the sales space. I was always on a salary of like 3 grand a month. And to me, that was ridiculous, right? I'm a young man. I'm not paying any rent. I'm living at home at the time, and I'm able to afford a holiday pretty much every month. Whatever clothes that I wanted to buy, whatever shoes I wanted to buy, whatever car I wanted to buy, I was able to afford it. And that made me comfortable. But that feeling of comfortability is what pulled me away from the things that I really desired. Because if you do desire to live an entrepreneurial lifestyle, you want freedom and abundance, then that comes with work ethic, that comes with sacrifice, that comes with pain. And going back to what David Guillaume talks about, he talks about the idea of desire being written already. So the things that you desire are meant for you. The creator wants you to have it. You just need to embrace the opportunities. But in order to have it, you need to experience pain. And that pain doesn't necessarily need to come in the form of hard work. That pain is just something that changes your mindset, changes the way you think, changes your perspective of reality and the perspective of your current world at that moment. And it drives you towards achieving something bigger. And that pain is meant to be what pushes you towards that desire. For me, whilst there were many pros from the corporate space, I knew that it didn't meet my desires and I wanted more. But I had to experience pain in order to get there, and I'll walk through that in just a moment. But the cons, as mentioned from the corporate space for me, was that comfortability piece because it held me back from my desires. Being comfortable meant that I didn't break out of that comfort zone, and success does not happen within the comfort zone. You need to escape that zone in order to achieve abundance and financial success and your desires ultimately. But also, there were limits. I didn't feel like I could reach my potential within the corporate environment. There's always someone else that can dictate your future. There's only so much you can do. Yes, you can perform, you can deliver your KPIs, you can book your appointments, you can deliver your revenue targets, but unless that one person signs off on you getting that promotion, you're limited. And this links onto the final point, which is having a lack of control. There's no control over where you can go in the organization. There's someone, whether it's your manager, it could be someone in C-level who to them you're just a number. Specifically, if you're at a larger company, you are just a number. So you don't really have much control over your income, and it's just very political. in corporate environments. There's only so much that you can do to reach your desire. And if you are like me and you desire freedom, abundance, and that entrepreneurial lifestyle, then you would need to literally run that company in order to achieve your desire. So your potential isn't there. And it goes back to what I said. Do you feel stuck in a role where financially you're comfortable, but your soul is telling you that you need more? And if that is you, then my recommendation would be to look at different options. Now, I mentioned that in the spiritual wisdom of Kabbalah, you have to experience pain in order to take that next level. And for me, that pain was losing my job. Now, I want this podcast to be as authentic as possible. I lost my job at my second SaaS company, and that was the pain that I needed to take a slightly different route towards my desire. I felt like I needed that. Looking back at that, it was fate, and I'm so grateful that that happened, because if I didn't get let go from my job, I might have still been there. I might have still been comfortable. I might not have taken the risk that I needed to take in order to achieve the life that I really wanted, that I'm living at this moment. So my transition into high ticket sales was not planned. At the time I lost my job, I actually didn't know what high ticket sales was. But what I did know is that I didn't want to go back into the space that I was in. I did not see myself starting from the bottom at another SaaS company. I did not see myself working in the corporate space. In fact, I did not see myself working for someone else. I hated authority. Most entrepreneurs do. I disliked authority and I just didn't want to do it again. But I came across an opportunity from a guy called Santino, amazing salesperson, and he mentored me throughout my first offer as a high ticket closer. For me, I knew sales development representatives, account executives, sales execs. I had no clue what an appointment setter or a high ticket closer was. I really didn't. But I made the transition anyway. And the reason I was really worried and it took me a week to actually take that role on is because I still felt like I needed to be comfortable. That's what my limited belief was, the fact that I needed a salary, I needed 3 grand at the end of the month, I needed to be comfortable. A lot of people in the same position as me are probably thinking that. And if you're listening to this or watching this and you're a corporate sales rep and you've been looking into the high ticket sales space, and you understand that it's a commission only role, you eat what you kill, no contract, then you're probably thinking, damn, how do I risk losing my job or leaving my job and leaving my comfortable salary? And in sales, they do pay a lot. So that could be, between 2 grand to 5 grand a month. How do I leave that and take on an offer that I could potentially make nothing in? This was something that played in my mind constantly and it held me back a lot. But, entrepreneurs take risks. So I took the risk and I was introduced to a whole new world of sales when I did that. And I mentioned before that moving into the high ticket sales space not only taught me sales from a different perspective, it actually helped me know how to sell a lot more. It also introduced me to a different type of business model, a different type of business, right? When you're working at a corporate company, again, there are so many different layers that you can't physically see the entire process, right? There are customer success teams, there are marketing teams, product teams, DevOps teams. Like there are so many things going on. You being a number in a sales team, you don't understand what's going on in the business. Moving into the high ticket sales, I was able to see the business at a much larger scale. I was more involved in it. It's kind of like working at a startup. And I was able to see how I can leverage my knowledge, my skill set, my understandings of sales infrastructure and business development that I learned in the corporate space and how I can introduce that into high ticket sales, which was amazing. But I'll get into that in another episode. Essentially, moving into the high ticket sales space taught me so much more and it allowed me to take control of my life. It gave me control of my income, it gave me control of my time, and it gave me more freedom. I was in control of everything. Whilst there were months where I made nothing because I was still learning the space. But once I understood it, I was completely in control of my income and it was on me to decide how much I made. I don't need to consult C-level to ask for a pay rise or promotion. In order for me to add an additional 5 grand onto my month, all I had to do was develop my skills more. All I needed to do was learn how to close deals, learn how to objection handle. That's all I needed. I was in complete control. Now, high ticket sales reps are almost glorified entrepreneurs in this way because you have everything that an entrepreneur has without the business, so without the stress. You're in control of your income. You have sales calls, you take sales calls, and depending on how much of them you close, that's how much you make. And you're on a commission only basis. So you can do this whenever you want. If you don't work, you don't make money. You can work from Australia, Thailand, Bali. You can do whatever you want. You have control over your life. So the transition into high ticket sales for me was a huge plus. Like, whilst there were cons in the fact that you don't have that comfortability piece, that con became a pro very quickly. Because you're not comfortable, you have to develop your skill sets and your ability in order to make more money. So if you are like me, you're considering making the move, or you're unsure, but you're completely aware that the current vehicle you're in does not fulfill you, does not satisfy you, does not direct you towards your desires, then I would highly recommend exploring the option for high ticket sales. However, if you do value comfortability, you do value living paycheck after paycheck, and you aren't willing to embrace delayed gratification, then I would encourage you to stay in the corporate space. But obviously, for a lot of you listeners who are in the high ticket space, my recommendation would be to just develop your skills because the earning potential is immense. It is insane. But specifically for those of you in the corporate space, you have something that a lot of people don't. And that is knowledge and expertise from high up organizations surrounded by people who care about your development. Your managers who have dedicated hours and hours of their time to developing you into being the best salesperson you can be. Hours on cold calls, discovery calls, understanding ICPs, understanding business development and the landscape. Those skills that you have are massively important to most organizations in the high ticket space. And the reason that the demand for great talent in high ticket sales is so large right now is because there are more and more businesses growing online that need great salespeople. And with your expertise in the corporate world, you can make an absolute impact on a number of different organizations in the high ticket sales space. I hope you've been able to at least take something from this session today. If you've been looking to make that move, then I hope you have more clarity. If you've made the move already, then congratulations. I'd love to hear how your journey's been. And honestly, like, creating this podcast has been something that I've always wanted to do. I'm very grateful that I've been able to take action, and I hope it just continues to grow from here. Like I said, I want this to be the #1 podcast for sales and business development, and I'm not going to stop until we get there. So I'd really appreciate it if everyone watching this would subscribe, like, leave a comment, whatever you can do to blow this podcast up and take it to the moon. Let's connect on Instagram. My name on Instagram is GrowthByJordan, and I have a private story specifically for all of my listeners. All I want you to do is follow me, DM me the number 888, which is the angel number for financial abundance, and I'll get you added to my private story where I'll be sharing some behind the scenes insights, personal tips, and some special content for those of you in my community. I'll be giving as much away as I can to help you develop in the world of high ticket sales. So again, just to join, type in Growth by Jordan, the exact same as the name of this podcast, into Instagram. Follow me, DM me the password 888, and I'll get you added to my close friend story. But until then, I really look forward to seeing you all on the next episode, and I hope that this has been massively beneficial for you all. Until then, peace.